Right now, as you watch this, there are 419 luxury condominiums sitting inside a 58-story skyscraper in downtown San Francisco. The people who own those condos paid millions for them, and many of them cannot get out. Not because there's an emergency, not because the building is on fire, because the numbers don't work anymore. One unit on the 5th floor sold in late 2024 for $720,000. The same owner had paid $1.5 million for it in 2015. That is a 52% loss on a condo in San Francisco. And the building? It has already sunk more than 17 inches into the ground and tilted 26 inches to the northwest. The fix cost over $100 million. The value hasn't recovered. This is the story of the Millennium Tower, the $550 million trap, how it got built, how it started sinking, who knew and when, and why owners are still trapped inside it today. Let's get into it. Subscribe. This channel covers the stories SF papers run for 2 days and bury. The next building in this series makes this one look like a crack in the sidewalk. Here's what nobody explains properly about how this building failed. San Francisco sits on some of the most geologically unstable ground in the United States. The area around Mission and Fremont Streets, where Millennium Tower stands, sits on bay mud. Not a nickname. The actual engineering classification, soft, saturated, compressible sediment that was the shallow edge of San Francisco Bay before it was filled in during the 1800s. When you build on bay mud, the mud compresses, and the building goes down. Now, engineers had a choice: anchor to bedrock, roughly 200 feet below street level, or stop short of bedrock in a dense layer of sand at 60 to 90 feet. Bedrock is permanent. Sand compresses under sustained weight. Mission Street Development, the entity that built this tower, chose the sand. They placed 950 reinforced concrete piles into sand, not bedrock. Every other major skyscraper built in that neighborhood after them, including the Salesforce Tower directly across the street, anchored to bedrock. The Millennium Tower did not, and all 58 floors started sinking from the day the foundation was poured in 2006. The building opened in 2009. It was not just a building, it was a statement. Architecture awards followed. Units sold out fast, over $1,500 per square foot. Tom Perkins, the legendary venture capitalist, bought here. Joe Montana bought here. Jerry and Pat Dodson bought here. Jerry was a lawyer. They paid $2.1 million for a 2-bedroom on the 42nd floor. Pat told 60 Minutes, "Everything I had read indicated it was the best building in San Francisco." Now, here is the timeline that matters. The settlement data was being collected and reviewed internally during and after construction. The rate was between 1.5 and 2 inches per year. That data existed, but between 2009 and 2016, 7 full years, the residents were not told. Not told their building was sinking. Not told that by 2016, the tower had already sunk more than 16 inches and tilted nearly 14 inches to the northwest. When residents found out, through a report by the San Francisco Chronicle, the response was immediate. And then the story got worse. In the fall of 2016, a video went viral. It was simple. A resident placed a marble on their floor and let it go. It rolled, with the casual confidence of something that had somewhere to be. That 30-second video did what no engineering report had managed. It made the tilt physically real. By October 2016, the numbers were public. Millennium Partners pointed the finger at the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority, the public agency managing construction of the adjacent Salesforce Transit Center. The TJPA's excavation had involved dewatering, removing groundwater that keeps bay mud stable. Removing it accelerates compression. The TJPA pointed right back. On November 3rd, 2016, the San Francisco city attorney filed suit against the developer. More than 200 individual lawsuits followed. Drop it in the comments. Who's more to blame? The developer who chose not to anchor to bedrock, or the public agency whose excavation accelerated the sinking? In August 2019, the Homeowners Association, Millennium Partners, and the TJPA reached a settlement. The deal involved $100 million to drill 52 new perimeter piles, 250 feet down to bedrock, 3 times deeper than the original piles. And because the TJPA is a state-funded public agency, a portion of that $100 million fix was paid by California taxpayers. A private luxury skyscraper built with a foundation engineers knew was substandard, partially repaired with public money. The residents' attorneys alleged that developers knew about the sinking before apartments went on sale and chose not to disclose it to buyers. The settlement required every condo owner be compensated on a per-square-foot basis. The exact amounts were kept confidential, but the fix still needed to happen, and it did not go as planned. Construction on the perimeter pile upgrade began in November 2020. The project was described as unprecedented, installing new concrete piles socketed into bedrock while the building remained fully occupied. In August 2021, while work was in progress, the fix made it worse. Construction had to be halted after accelerated sinking was observed. The repair was making the building sink faster. By mid-2023, engineers declared the project complete. But then came February 2024. Investigative reporting showed the tilt correction had only recovered 1 inch. The engineering model had predicted 4, a quarter of what was projected. And when the final cost overruns came in, residents received a surprise bill for $6.8 million. The owners who had already paid for their units, already received settlement payments, already paid mortgages on properties that lost half their value, now received a surprise bill for the repair they had been promised was covered. Remember Jerry and Pat Dodson, the lawyer and his wife who paid $2.1 million for the 42nd floor, planning to retire there? He told CBS News, "We were completely in the dark." This is what that future looks like. A building monitored by engineers through at least 2031 to confirm settlement is stable. A building where the average 2024 sale resulted in a 20% loss. A building where one unit sold for 52% less than its 2015 price. A building with a HOA that has now hired a PR firm. A skyscraper in the middle of San Francisco needs a PR campaign to get people to buy units. The building sank 17 inches, tilted 26 inches, required a $100 million fix, partially paid by taxpayers. The fix took 4 years. It made things worse before it made things better. Owners got a surprise bill when it was done. And, somewhere right now, a buyer is asking about square footage and amenities and views, but not asking the question that matters. How deep do the piles go? The permit file is public. It always was. If this changed how you think about luxury real estate, share it. Someone in your network is probably considering buying in a new building right now. Subscribe. The next building in this series has a file in the same San Francisco approval database. Subscribers get it when it drops. Here is what makes this more than a Millennium Tower story. The same bay mud that sits under 301 Mission Street sits under approximately 30% of San Francisco. The entire eastern waterfront, the financial district, large sections of Soma, all built on fill placed over bay mud, in some cases over a century ago. The approval process that permitted this foundation, piles into sand, not bedrock, went through the San Francisco Department of Building Inspection, the same department that approves every new high-rise in the city today. Desimone Consulting Engineers, structural engineer of record on Millennium Tower, has worked on buildings across the United States. The geotechnical firm Treadwell and Rollo, named in the lawsuits, has signed soil reports across the Bay Area. The incentive structure that produced this outcome is not unique to one developer or one building. Developers get paid when buildings are approved and sold. Engineers get paid per project. Regulators process permits under political pressure to approve development. That structure does not produce conservative foundation decisions. It produces fast ones. And somewhere right now, in San Francisco, in New York, in Chicago, in any city with a high-rise construction boom, that same structure is producing the same decisions. The buyers won't find out for 10 years, maybe 15, maybe when they try to sell. This is the part most coverage of the Millennium Tower glosses over. There are people inside this building who cannot leave. Not the market is soft, cannot leave. The real kind. Multiple lenders at various points refused to issue mortgages on Millennium Tower units entirely, not because the building was condemned, but because the reputational and legal risk was too high for standard underwriting. That creates a specific trap. Your unit is worth less. You must disclose the full history to any buyer. The disclosure itself can end negotiations. And if you sell at a loss in the millions, that loss is real money. One seller on the 54th floor, a tech entrepreneur, sold his unit in 2022 for $2.725 million. He had paid $4.3 million in 2012, a $1.575 million loss. He could absorb it. He said so publicly. Not everyone can. In 2024, 9 units sold at Millennium Tower. Average loss, 20.2% of original purchase price. The HOA has now hired a PR firm and produced a short film promoting the building. Banks have slowly begun returning to the market, but the people who bought here in 2009, 2010, 2012, planning to retire here, planning to build their lives here, they did not sign up for a PR campaign. They signed up for the best building in San Francisco. That is what they were told they were buying.